everyone, Emily here from Emily Reads, and today I have for you my pile of possibilities for March. So I am participating in the Tropical Readathon. That's not tropical, I always want to say tropical, it's Tropical Readathon. And the information for that is found on Jen Reviews. She's got a blog online, and then you can also find it on YouTube with their announcement video. Excuse me, you might also hear me coughing or clearing my throat. I have asthma, and the weather here in Central Illinois has been up and down and up and down. So it's been fun times for me. At any rate, I have a big, huge stack of books next to me. There is no way that I'm going to read all of these books. So what I've done is, with this readathon, they have a main prompt, and then they have an alternative prompt. And you can get points for reading either the main or the alternative prompt. In addition, they also have 2 tropes per team. So I am Team Fantasy, and they have 2 tropes that are specific to fantasy that you can choose a book to read. And they also have 2 team books that you can read. And you only get points for reading one of your team books. I am not reading the team books. I'm Team Fantasy. There's Team Fantasy, Team Sci-Fi, Team Romance, I think Team Contemporary, and then Team Poetry / Nonfiction. I'm not reading the team books simply because I have so many books that those are the ones that I need to focus on. I need to focus on the books that I already own. So you get points for reading the Common Challenge. You get more points for reading your the 2 tropes that are specific to your team, and then you get more points for reading the team books. In addition, you get points per page that you read. So that's exciting because Team Fantasy, we know that our books can be huge. I finished Way of Kings in February. That's 1,000+ pages. So they can be huge, whereas romance books can be like 250 pages. So I like the fact that with this readathon, you get points per page read as well to kind of level things out. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to tell you both the main and the alternate prompt, and then I'm going to show you the book that I have chosen for whatever prompt, okay? So for prompt 1, the main prompt is absent / dead parent. The alternative prompt is a book with more than one author. Now I do have a couple of books with more than one author that I could choose from, but I know that I want to read The Alloy of Law by Brandon Sanderson. I'm going to assume that there's an absent or dead parent only because one of our characters is like returning home to Ellendale. This is like 300 years after Mistborn Era 1. And he's going to take over, and like he's inheriting, like he's becoming the head of the house for his uncle. So I'm going to assume that there's an absent or a dead parent if he is inheriting for the uncle and not for his parents. At least I'm going to hope that that's the case, because I know for sure that I want to read this as I make my way through the Cosmere this year, and I'm trying to go through publication order. And then because I want to make my way through the Cosmere and I'm going through publication order, I'm going to read a few stories from Arcanum Unbounded. And those stories, this won't fit any prompt. It will just, I'll be able to claim points for the pages that I've read, but it won't fit for any points. So I plan on reading The 11th Metal, The Emperor's Soul, which that's a novella. So I feel like I might be able to get points for that, especially since that gets sold separately. And then I plan on reading Shadows for Silence. So I'm hoping to knock those 3 out, so that way in April I could read Words of Radiance. All right, prompt number 2, you can pick a love triangle as the main prompt, or followers / friends choose between 2 book options. I am really kind of getting tired of the love triangle trope. I am. I did post on a Discord like 2 different books for them to choose from, and the one that they chose for me was Lies of Locke Lamora, and this one is, so from what I understand, it's a heist, and like Locke Lamora is slightly built. He's not really competent with the sword. He is, from what I understand, he's going to like lead a band of thieves called the Gentlemen Bastards. And that's really kind of all I know, that it's a heist. And I didn't think that I would like heist tropes, but I've discovered that I really do. So I've heard really good things. I know Murphy Napier really loves Lives of Locke Lamora. So that's kind of where I heard about this book and really was like, oh, I need to read this book. So I might get to this one. I hope to in March, but I don't know. Then the next prompt, the main prompt, is boarding school, or the alternate prompt is a group or a buddy read. I don't want to commit to a buddy read or a group read in March just because I don't know how things are going to play out for me. I want some wiggle room in case I need to switch some things out. So I'm going with boarding school. And from what I understand, there is a boarding school for part of Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. I don't know too much about this other than I know it's like he is, the main character is kind of like looking back. It's told in flashback and he's telling us the story of his life. That's really all I know. So we'll see. I don't think I'll get to this in March simply because there are other books that I really want to focus on. Then the next prompt is the main prompt is either dark academia or a borrowed book. Well, since I'm trying to focus on books that I own, I'm going with dark academia, and that is A Master of Jinn by P. Jelly Clark. And this is like steampunk, from what I understand, set in Egypt, and it's a mystery. And I think, I did Google like steampunk, or not steampunk, dark academia fantasy, and of course it popped up like Hellbent, which I don't want to read. Like I looked at the trigger warnings, I'm like, no, it's just too much for me. There are other things that I'm like, I don't really want to read. So, but this came up too for dark academia. I hope it fits. I don't know if I'll get to it. We'll see. You're all kind of like, Emily, what is it that you're reading? Right now, it's only one book. Just wait. Then the next prompt, the main prompt, is holiday or takes place in another country. So I know for sure I'm going to read this because it's nice and short. So that would be The Stranger by Albert Camus. And this is set in Algeria. And from what I understand, it's someone who kind of gets drawn into an investigation about a murder on an Algerian beach. So I know for sure I'll read this. It's nice and short. And also, so I should be able to get through it quickly. And it will fit within my reading around the world. Then the next prompt, number 6, is either mixed media or an audiobook or ebook. And I will either listen to Shipwrecked by Olivia Dade or The Direction of the Wind. The Direction of the Wind was a book that I just picked up this weekend. Shipwrecked I've had. It's a little awkward. Like I started reading it and I was like, ooh. Like the first chapter, I was like, whoa, you don't hold back. And I had to like turn the volume down. I didn't have earbuds in. I'm listening to it in my apartment. It's like, whew, it's a little steamy there. So we'll see. One of those two I will read, or I'll listen to like while I'm doing chores throughout the month. Prompt number 7. The main prompt is either apocalyptic or dystopian. or a book with over 500 pages. I said, nope, I don't want to do over 500 pages because I already have a couple of books that are already over 500 pages. So I decided to go with, apocalyptic. And that would be Parable of the Talents by Octavia Butler. So this is the second book. I've already read the first book, and this we follow Lauren Alaminas, and she is sorry, I just had a brain fart moment there. So this is the second book. So Lauren Alamina, she was raised in book one. She lived at home with her family in like a walled community for their safety. And her father was like the preacher of the community. And, but she did not believe that religion. And she decides to like find, or like she develops her own religion called the Earth Seed. And the main tenet is that God is change. So this now picks up years later following the events in Parable of the Sower. The reason why I had a little brain fart moment there is I was about to say something. I was like, whoa, that's a main spoiler for book number one. So that's the problem in talking about books in a series. Then, prompt number 8 is a book in a series or found family. So the main prompt for prompt number 8 is found family. I'm going to do book in a series, and it's also middle grade March next month. So I know Krista from Books and Jams and Amanda from the Curly Reader, they today posted their announcement for middle grade March and the different prompts there. But you can also participate in middle grade March just by reading a couple of middle grade books. So this is the first of 2 that I plan on reading in March, and that is Amari and the Night Brothers. So I want to read this for middle grade March. I also need to read this to follow up on my the books on their first line. Excuse me. Prompt number 9, the main prompt is coming of age, and then the alternate prompt is indie or a self-published book. So I'm going to do coming of age, and this is also another middle school book. So for sure I will read this, and that is Keeper of the Lost Cities by Shannon Messenger. Now I could also use this for book in a series, but I decided to use this as a coming of age. And this has been really popular lately on BookTube as well. And so the back says that Sophie Foster has a secret, and she's a telepath. And so she can hear the thoughts of everyone around her. And it's kind of made her an outcast. And then she meets this boy, Fitz, who also reads minds. But she's trying to figure out, where does she belong? So figuring out where you belong, that's for sure coming of age. So then book prompt number 10, the main prompt is multiple POV, or the alternate prompt is multiple people of color characters. So I decided to go with multiple point of view. And for that is The Dragon Reborn by Robert Jordan. So this is book 3 in the Wheel of Time series. I need to read The Great Hunt. So I'm only on page 50 of The Great Hunt. I'm really kind of nervous about this. So I don't know if I'll get to The Dragon Reborn. I want to follow along with the Wheel of Time read-along that Leslie from the Nerdy Narrative and Kate from the Literary Apothecary and Anitha Gade from her channel. And I think there's one other involved, and I don't remember who. I apologize. So they're doing this read-along with Wheel of Time this year. But I need to read The Great Hunt, and time is ticking. So we will see if I get to that. Prompt number 12 is, the main prompt is either bookish themes or a book with a pun in the title. So I'm going to go with bookish themes. And for that is Ash and Quill. Ink and Bone is book number 1, which I'm currently reading. I'm doing a buddy read with Krista from Book and Jams. So this is book 2. and the Great Library series. And basically, from what I understand so far, right now, I'm on page like 50 in Ink and Bone. So the Library of Alexandria did not burn down. It still exists. It controls all of knowledge, and it decides what knowledge can be given out to people, and owning books is illegal. For sure, bookish themes. Then prompt number 13. The main prompt is either a retelling. The alternate prompt is a book with a TV or movie adaptation. So again, I was looking at my books, what I'm hoping to do for other year-long challenges. And so coming up with that, I'm getting now to the bottom of the pile. I'm going to read A Study in Scarlet by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. So many adaptations. The most famous and the one that I loved was the one with Benedict Cumberbatch. The first episode was a takeoff on A Study in Scarlet. Also, just really touching side note on this edition of this book. So, first of all, obviously, Study in Scarlet is part of this book. This book is a bind-up of the complete works of Sherlock Holmes. And I have a second edition. My father loved Sherlock Holmes. He loved it, loved him. So my dad was a huge reader. Like, the amount of books that was in my house, he easily had his own personal library at home. And he had a 5-shelf bookcase that was double, maybe even triple stacked of just Sherlock Holmes. And he was part of a Sherlock Holmes discussion group that met once a month. And he was part of that for years, it's called the South Downers. It's in the south suburbs of Chicago. And I told him, like, I really want to read some Sherlock Holmes because I haven't really read Sherlock Holmes. And he gave me this book along with the second volume of the complete works. So he gave those to me before he died. I'm like, my dad did not give up his books. Like, we knew don't ask dad for a book. And so the fact that he gave them to me is just super touching. So I do want to start reading the Sherlock Holmes books. Okay, then for the team challenge, the first team challenge, so these team challenges are specific to your chosen team genre. Okay, so my chosen team again is fantasy, and challenge number 1 has a gods or a mythology trope. And so for that, this for sure I probably will get to, because it should be a quicker read, is the Trials of Apollo by Rick Riordan. And this is book, and the title is The Dark Prophecy. So this is book 2 in the Trials of Apollo series. I read book 1 earlier in the year for some challenge that I don't even remember. It was a long day, folks. I'm sorry. So this is book 2. I'm not going to really talk about what this book might be about because that would be spoilery for book 1. And then the second team challenge prompt is a gaslight fantasy novel. And so I was like, what is gaslight fantasy? Well, gaslight fantasy is just a fantasy novel that is set during the time when electricity is just beginning to start. So like Victorian era, okay? And so for that, this is where things get really tricky. That would be Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clark. So this book is a beast. Oh, it's actually not as long as I thought it was. I thought easily I was going to be like in the thousands. No, we're only at 781 pages. The pages must be really just, the pages are thick, that's all. It's still really long. So this is set in, actually it's set in 1806, but it was marketed, when I looked up, give me an example of gaslight fantasy, it was marketed, this is what popped up. So this is 1806, England has kind of been at war with Napoleon, practical magic has faded, but now there is still a practicing magician named Mr. Norrell, and he is challenged to demonstrate his powers. So, which he does apparently. I'm just looking at the blurb on the flap. And then he then goes to London, and he raises a woman from the dead. And then he's now then Mr. Norrell then gets challenged by another magician, Jonathan Strange, and he's very opposite of Norrell. So I've heard really good things about this book. I do want to read it. It is on my year TBR. March is going to be a busy month for me. Like, I just feel like this whole school year has just been really busy. But I do have spring break. So I'm hoping that will help me knock out some books, because this will give me extra points for my team. So I don't know if I'll get to this. I don't know if I'll finish this. But I really, really want to try. So for sure, what I will be reading, for sure I'm going to read Keeper of the Lost Cities. For sure I'm going to read Amari and the Night Brothers. For sure I'll read The Stranger. So those three are for sure, like, they're going to be easy reads. They were already on my TBR. For sure, in March, I'm going to read The Alloy of Law and the stories from Arcanum Unbounded. Then from there, it's just going to have to see, like, I'm just going to have to see, like, where I'm at, what the timeline looks like. I do really want to get, The Dragon Reborn. I just don't know if I'm going to get that one done. Trials of Apollo, The Dark Prophecy will probably be a for sure. Sorry, it just, like, slid across the room. That will probably be a for sure, because it's also something that will be a quicker read for me. So my goal is to hopefully get some of those quicker reads done, so I can knock some books off of my physical TBR. And these also, all of these books that I'm choosing to read fit prompts for other challenges throughout the year. Well, Amari doesn't, and Keeper of the Lost City, but like the other ones do. That's enough of my rambling. So that being said, go check out the Tropical Readathon. Like, I feel like it's a really pretty flexible readathon, and sign up for it. I think there are also giveaways associated with this readathon. Again, go check out Jen Reviews. She has a blog on the web, and then also you can check out if you just search on YouTube Tropical Readathon, you'll find the announcement videos. And always just let me know the books that I have as like my maybe reads. Let me know if there's one that you think that I really need to make sure that I read in March. And as always, happy reading. Please like and subscribe.